Hello and welcome to the Cars and Cancer podcast. It's episode 11. I've got the usual suspects with me, so I've got Darren and Andy. And we've also got a special guest today. We've got Steve. Steve was mentioned in the previous podcast, in episode 18, where we had a good old chat with Jon Delieu. And gents, the viewing figures went through the roof for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it, but we've had over 1,600 views.
Wow, it was on about 400 and some odd when I last looked.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That must be 1,598 people clicking on it by accident, and then probably some people listen to it all the way through. But we got some extra followers as well, which is nice. And
yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really doing it for followers, are we? We're sort of doing it just if it can just bring a little bit of help or comfort to someone. But it is nice that the word gets out there a bit, really. I feel really chuffed with that, and it was very, very appreciative of Jon for his time.
Yeah,
doing that. But what a top bloke as well. What a really nice bloke.
Yeah,
it's a really great chat, that was.
Yeah.
Really, very interesting, though.
Yeah, I suppose that brings in quite nicely with you, Steve. So you were mentioned on the last podcast when we were talking to Jon. So how did you get to know Jon then, Steve? How's that all sort of come about?
So a very good friend of mine, Paul Williams, I've known him, 35 plus years. We went to school together. He just arranged things without me knowing. There was a group of us, there was three of us when we were younger, that always used to hang around together. And when I was diagnosed, they were like one of the first people that I informed of what was going on. And he said, right, be ready for a certain time on a Tuesday. I said, right, okay. So I was ready, and he came and collected me, and then we ended up in Goodwood, and he introduced me to Jon, and then we went round the Goodwood track with his BMW M4. It was a fantastic day, absolutely fantastic.
Oh, wow. Did you think you'd been car SOS'd?
Well, I mean, I didn't take my car, so it would have been nice if I'd come back to it had been cleaned, but it hadn't been. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean that's sort of half a job from Jon, really, isn't it? You know, I mean, he's taken you out in the car, but he could at least cleaned yours.
Well, but it's such a nice guy. I mean, what a fantastic day it was, and a phenomenal driver driving around Goodwood, and then he suggested I'd gone on the Thursday that I brought my car, and I took my car down, and little did I know at that time that my friends had contacted Goodwood and asked them if they could put me on the track for that day, and Goodwood did it for me. They took me around the track with one of their instructors as well, and then I was able to take my car onto the track. And I mean, it's this big wallowy bus, a 2.1 ton Mercedes S-Class, driving down the straight, but it goes.
It's a great experience, though, Steve.
Oh, it was just brilliant. So I had the air conditioning on, I had the massage seat on, I had the air conditioned seat on whilst driving around the track, being overtaken by everything else. But you know, it was a fantastic.
Just loving it, I bet.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and my dad was there as well. But my friends have invited him as well, because he's probably the person that's suffered the most with my diagnosis. He's the one that's had trouble with it all. So having him there was actually very nice for me, because it gave him something to focus on.
I mean, that sounds great. It sort of sounds like a sort of a post-race interview, but I don't remember Lewis Hamilton saying he had the heated seat on, he had the aircon on a racetrack. That's quite an unusual track day, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I bought the Mercedes because I cashed in my pension after being diagnosed, because despite all the modern technology and everything going forward, I know that I'm not going to be here to collect my pension. So I cashed it in, and I traded in my previous car. I had a Skoda Superb, fantastic thing, a 3.6 litre version which people don't suspect that you have a 3.6 litre Skoda Superb, but I did, and it was great. But I traded it in and bought my S63, and I've not looked back. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Oh, I mean that's tremendous. Just to sort of say, right, okay, life's dealt me this card, but I'm gonna do what I want to do while I can. And I mean, if you don't mind me asking, are you able to sort of talk a bit about your diagnosis and where it sort of came about? Really, I mean, is that okay to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine to talk about it. So I currently live in Basingstoke, but my previous doctor was in Southampton, and I never changed it across to Basingstoke because my doctors in Southampton were fantastic. I started to feel a bit under the weather. I was having trouble eating, and I spoke to the doctor on the phone. A lot of the consultations nowadays are by phone, and they prescribed me some tablets to hopefully help with a gastric problem, because that's what they thought it was. But it wasn't working, so 2 weeks later they sent me to basically have a tube put down my throat to check to see what was happening. And at that point they discovered that I had a tumour on my esophagus. From there I then had a scan to see anything else, and they then discovered that I also had lesions on my liver. Which was then, at that point, when I sat down to discuss things with my consultant, a Professor Iverson, at Southampton Hospital, I was diagnosed as being stage 4. I had 6 to 11 months, but I was lucky enough that I could go onto a medication called immunotherapy, as well as having chemotherapy. I had a course of chemotherapy, 8 sessions every 2 weeks, and then I had immunotherapy, or I'm still having immunotherapy, every 6 weeks. Well, that was 9 months ago, and I'm very much still here, and probably in better shape now than I've been since I was at school. I believe Southampton has one of the best units in the country, and I discovered today that the tumour on my esophagus has shrunk by 1/3, and the lesions on my liver have almost disappeared.
Wow.
So definitely moving forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
forgive me for asking a silly question, or not quite understanding it. So, is it a terminal diagnosis that you've got, or is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was a terminal diagnosis. So 6 to 11 months was the original diagnosis. So 6 months would have been if I hadn't had any treatments.
Yeah.
11 months with having the chemotherapy, but immunotherapy. So in layman's terms, immunotherapy was described to me as the body is unaware that it has cancer. Immunotherapy tells the immune system there's something bad, you need to fight that, and as a result of that, that's what it does. I mean, when I have it, it makes my immune system work twice as hard. I get very, very tired very quickly, but as a result of the immunotherapy, it's probably what saved me so far. And on average, people live between an extra 5 and 10 years because of immunotherapy. And I'm very grateful that I was able to have it. It's not something that works for everyone.
Yeah.
It's very expensive, and I think it's still very experimental. But I have been told that eventually it will take over from chemotherapy because it's that good.
Right. That's great.
The fact that I'm still here makes me unbelievably happy. I've only just returned to work after being off with all this. All my kitchen team are incredibly happy to have me back.
Yeah.
I'm a head chef. They're all incredibly happy to have me back. I'm not able to do a lot. I only do about 10 hours a week, but it's more the managerial side and supporting them. And that's what I see as my role, is more a support role than anything else. And and that's unfortunately one of my team. His mum died last week of cancer. He's only 22, bless him, and I know that's very hard for him, and I'm doing everything I can to try and support him the best I can.
Yeah. I think we've certainly talked about this before, Steve, and it always happens to somebody else, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It never happens to you. And then and then when it does come along and you get that diagnosis, the initial thought I had was, right, I'm going to die. How long have I got left? And I think it's a bit of a misconception, that just because you've got cancer doesn't mean it's necessarily the end of the world, and you can still have a really good lifestyle, even if it is terminal. And I think sometimes a lot of the success stories aren't actually out there. It's more that, you hear the celebrities dying of cancer and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like a joke in our family now. If somebody passes away, it's like, oh, is the C word come back again? It just feels that it's so negative around it. But you've had you've had that diagnosis, but you've got such a positive spin on it. I can tell already, your lust for life, and potentially you've got another 5 or 10 years ahead of you.
I very much like to hope that this is the case. It's I announced basically to the world on my birthday in December when I turned 50 that this, at that time, I thought it was probably going to be my last birthday, and the outpouring of love on Facebook was amazing. It was really touching, and one of them was someone I worked with years ago, and he said, every time I make poached eggs for my partner, I always tell her that you're the person that taught me how to make poached eggs, so thank him. I thought, well, actually, I must have affected someone in a positive way then. I don't believe in. I'm not a conventional head chef. I don't scream and shout if I can possibly help it.
Yeah.
You don't tell people to do things. You ask them, and if you ask someone to do something and they don't do it, it tends to be, okay, why haven't you done the thing I've asked you to do? And then they're actually, I'll go and do that now. And so that's the way you do it. That's my philosophy of you treat people how you want to be treated yourself. You don't take advantage. You look after others as well. So the person who's unfortunate, his mum has died, over the last few years, I've made sure that he's had Christmases to stay off to try and spend with his mum, because you never know what's going to happen. And when he informed me last week that unfortunately his mum had passed away, in the message he said, I'd like to thank you so much for everything you've done for me, allowing me to take the time off to spend with my mum. And to me, it wasn't something that I've gone out of my way to do. It's what you do. That's my philosophy anyway. That's what you do these things. It's the natural thing to do, but not everyone's the same, unfortunately, as myself.
No, and do you think that way of thinking has come very much from what you've been through as well? You've got that extra sort of understanding of how valuable that time is, and you can make their life a little bit easier.
Well, I did all this before I was diagnosed. He's worked for me for 3 years, and I've been doing it since basically he started working for me, basically right from the get-go. So, I had no idea what it was going to affect me at some stage. It's just that, to me, if my mum was in that situation and I had someone that was able to help me deal with that, then that would make me happy. I've come from, unfortunately, with catering, I come from a time when I first started, if I did something wrong, I got punched. Well, my philosophy is, someone's done something wrong. It's, have I done something wrong, not explaining to them properly why they've done that wrong.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. And that way, if I have staff that leave and want to come back, because they want to work with me for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. I tell bad jokes, right? And I sing. So, I'm a crazy cat dad as well. So I dote on my cat, and I sing, and I tell them bad jokes, and it's like, oh no, don't tell me another one, and then stuff like that, because you don't have to have a bad atmosphere in a kitchen. We're not all like Gordon Ramsay, although he's a phenomenal chef. At the end of the day, you get more out of people by treating them nicely than you do from treating them badly.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, Steve.
Is it really like that in a kitchen, Steve? Is it run by arseholes, or are there genuinely some nice head chefs out there?
So I have encountered the arseholes. I'm not going to lie about it. I have, and I've had things thrown at me. I've had when I first started working in catering, too many years ago, I kept on burning the bread rolls because there's no timer on the oven. You put them in the oven, you go and do something else. Oh no, I've burnt the bread rolls. And at the end of my first month in the kitchen, I got given a bill for a box of bread rolls. So, okay, so I paid it, and then the head chef just put the money in his pocket and walked off. It's like, right, brilliant, thanks for that. But when I first started, there were more chefs than jobs. So, they said to you, there's the door, off you go. And you had no choice. That was the way it was. Whereas now there's more jobs than chefs. But I keep all mine because I treat them correctly.
Yeah.
The company I work for, there are the other pubs in the area that require chefs. If I'm able to go and help them, support them, then I'll send one of mine there. And also, I like them to see how things are done incorrectly, so that when they come back to me, they can see how things are done correctly.
Yeah.
So,
and you must keep your staff members then, mustn't it? Yeah.
I do. I mean, geez, I've got one in there. She's been in with me for over 7 years. She's a mum of 5, bless her. She works the mornings for me.
Mhm.
I've got one. He's been there with me for 4 or 5 years. I've one that actually started back yesterday, who worked for me before, went to go and work in a pet shop, and now he's asked to come back. So I said, yes, of course you can. So and my manager, someone called Zoe, she's fantastic. It's her first general manager's role, but she's doing a fantastic job of it. My area manager has bent over backwards for me to make sure that I'm okay. The company on the whole have been brilliant. They've really looked after me. And a few weeks ago, I went back to the brewery. I work for a company called Hall and Woodhouse. I went back to the brewery for the new menu brief, and as I get in there, I'm met by the manager. Well, the managing director came to see me, and then Anthony Woodhouse of Hall and Woodhouse came to see me to make sure that I was okay as well. And it was just so nice to be around these people that I've known for the last 15 years. That made sure that come to say hello to see how I was doing, and it's a very family-orientated business, and I love working for them, so I'm not going anywhere.
No. Oh, that's nice. But you have to build that relationship with your employer, don't you? They get to know you, and they appreciate the work that you put in, and what you deliver as part of your job. So they've gone out of their way for you there, haven't they? Because you put in the extra for your job, and obviously appreciate what you do. So it's just kind of a two-way thing, I think, isn't it? Really,
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not able to stand in a kitchen for very long at the moment. My energy levels are nowhere near what they used to be. One of the disadvantages, as I know which way you look at it, is I lost a lot of weight as a result of it, which then also meant I lost a lot of muscle mass. So the company allowed me to do more the managerial side of kitchens. And then later this week, I'll be going to another pub in Southampton to help them with their stock takes. So it's just an excuse for me to drive down the motorway in the big beast. But for them, they get time to go to another pub to help them.
Are they paying your petrol?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it?
When I went down the track, I got 8.2 to the gallon.
8.2, wow.
Yeah. If we've got any environmentalists listening, you might want to tune out now.
It runs on water. It's fine. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a 100-litre tank, and so to drive from Basingstoke to Goodwood, drive round and then drive back, it was a whole tank of fuel.
But what a tank of fuel, though, eh?
Oh, good God.
Yeah, well,
yeah. I mean, the noise it makes is phenomenal.
burn it, could you?
No one knows what it is, because it's an S-Class at the end of the day, but it's an S-Class with a special engine.
Yeah.
And it was previously owned by an ambassador in London. I don't know which embassy it was, but
Wow.
it's loaded. It's geez, it's massaging seats. It's dark blue metallic with brown leather, which is an unusual combination.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's got electric rear seats and air conditioned front and rear seats, and geez, it's loaded. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was looking at two. I was looking at this one, and it's just because what makes this one very rare. It's a short wheelbase. It didn't make many short wheelbases. Most people went for the long wheelbase.
Yeah.
And I was looking at an S600 as well, and all the S600s are long wheelbase. But I thought, no, I want something different, and so I went for the short wheelbase S63 instead.
So has that been a dream car for a while then, has it, Steve? Or it's not really a poster car, is it? So I just
it's not. But I've always liked the sleeper, I suppose, is the way of looking at it. Is so the Skoda beforehand is so it's a 2009 Skoda Superb, and I mean it was. God, I had everything. I had heated front and rear seats, even parked itself. But it was a 3.6 petrol, which is the same engine as the Passat R36. And it went. It's four-wheel drive. You just literally floored it and off it went. And so many people's like, that's a Skoda. It doesn't do that. So
Yeah.
It does. It does do that. So I do like this whole sleeper thing. And the S63, yeah, it says S63 on the back, and it says AMG, and it says 6.3 litre on the sides. But people don't tend to notice these things, and then all of a sudden it just disappears. And and makes a lot of noise in the process.
Yeah, they're a very smart, discreet car, aren't they? You could imagine turning up at the Ambassador's Tea Party in it, couldn't you, really?
Very much so. Very much so. I think it was probably more for his kids because it's got DVD screens in the back. And when I opened the armrest, I discovered Toy Story and stuff like that in the armrest. So I think it was probably more for his kids because, to be fair, the legroom's okay, but it's not huge for a short wheelbase.
Yeah.
The Skoda had more rear legroom than this. But again, it's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah. Do you have Ferrero Rocher in the glove box?
No. Unfortunately, being diabetic, I shouldn't really have
stuff like that. Nightmare.
Well, sort of nightmare because so I went from 120 kilos, which is just over 18 stone, to my lowest, which was 82 kilos, which is just about 12 and a half stone. So I dropped a lot of weight. And at that point, I thought, well, sod it, I'm just going to start eating chocolate again. And I did. And I still do. But, you know, if it's not going to be the horrible thing that's going to get me, it's going to be the diabetes instead. So, you know.
It's going to be something that's beginning with C that's going to get you then, Steve, but you just don't.
Well, yeah, it's either chocolate or cancer, I suppose, isn't it? Or to be fair, probably my cat, because I'm pretty sure she wants me to go, because every night she wakes me up about 3 or 4 times, you know.
Yeah. They don't really have this concept of sort of sleep at night, awake in the day, really, do they? They have their own sort of time clocks.
Absolutely. Do you know, with what I've been diagnosed, the thing that got to me the most was what happens to her.
Of course, yeah.
She's 4 years old. I've had her for the last 4 years. I had one before her for 14 years, and it's like, well, what happens? Whilst having my treatment, I was going to stay with my dad. He lives not far away from the hospital, so I'd stay there. Just she and I would go down in the car. She doesn't go in a cage. She wears a harness. She sits in the car. She'll sit on the passenger seat. She has the heated seat on. She has the massage on. She's not spoiled in any way. So we go there and then we spend the time there. And on my 5th treatment was the one that probably was the worst. And after I had the treatment, I said I'm just going to have a nap. And then I didn't get out of bed for almost 48 hours. I couldn't move hardly. And if I did go to the bathroom, I literally had to crawl. And she didn't leave my side. She stayed next to me on the bed the whole time.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, she probably knew before I did, to be fair.
Do you know what, Steve? I was just about to say that before I'd been diagnosed, one of our dogs, Tilly, she's a cross between Alsatian and a Jack Russell. Yeah, answers on a postcard. But she acted quite strange around me, and you know, dogs normally sniff your groin or something, but she would kind of there was something there, my wife was sort of saying, she keeps sniffing around you a bit there, that kind of thing. And I thought, well, you don't really think anything of it. But then I've read stuff, and apparently they say some animals, certainly dogs,
Pick it up,
got quite a heightened sense, and they can sort of detect things like this.
Yeah.
They can detect cancer and whatever. And I think sometimes they're very good at percepting your mood as well, and when you're happy, when you're sad, and whatever. They're very good at can be very good at reading humans as well. So maybe there's something in that for your cat as well. Then maybe she knows something's not quite right.
Yeah. I think you're right there, Adrian. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dog was the same, but she changed in the way that when she would come up, she would almost like very gingerly get next to you on the chair, and then she'd sort of keep sniffing at you what she did, and then she'd lay there, but she wouldn't do the play thing where she'd run and jump at you or jump onto your lap. Do you know what I mean? It was all very careful as she went about it. I think they could probably sense something's wrong, whether she sort of knew there was anything wrong, or they say that some dogs had been known to be able to kind of smell different things that's on your body that aren't right.
Yeah.
Or whether it was just a drastic change, and a bit like yourself, Steve. I lost about just over 3.5 stone in probably 3 months, and I think whether that sort of spooks them a little bit maybe as well, because they must see a total difference in your movements, the way you're acting, the way you're carrying yourself, because you can't walk properly, and you're doing everything else sort of careful, aren't you, yourself, because everything tends to hurt and you're uncomfortable and not, feeling really crappy. And I think they almost like mimic it in a way when they come up to you and get close to you. They can definitely sense that something is completely out of sorts with you. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. She's been brilliant to me. I've had her 4 years. I've had her since she was 10 weeks old, and we go everywhere together. We've worked in Poole, we've gone to London, we've been to Southampton, we've been here, there, and everywhere. So wherever I go, if I'm ever asked to go and help in another pub and I have to stay, so yeah, absolutely, quite happy to do that. But she comes with me, and if she doesn't come with me, then I don't go. And so the thing that got to me the most, the thing that affected me the most, was what happens to her while I was having all my treatments and I was going to my dad's and staying there. He and his wife are going to take her. And I think that's also good for them, because I'm not a parent, so I don't have children myself, so I can't understand totally how it must feel for a parent to know that their child has it. So I think that as and when it does happen, she'll be there, and it will help them with their grieving process, I suppose, because she'll be there. She's a strange creature. So my dad, I look very much like my dad. So she looks at me and she looks at him and she can't quite figure it out. So there's something not quite right here. I can't work out why there's two of you.
I think animals are very much around scent, aren't they?
Yes.
When I lost my hair and I would go and spend a couple of weeks in hospital and I'd come home and the dog would look at me quite strange. She would kind of, I know you, but I don't know you kind of thing. And then she comes up and she sniffs you, and then, okay, yeah, I know who you are now, I'm all right. But I thought dogs would be more perceptive on what they see, but it's very much around their scent, isn't around your scent. I've seen clips of people who have been away in the army and come back 6 months later, and the dog doesn't recognise them until they go up and actually sniff them, and they go, I recognise that smell. Yeah, that's my owner. That's it, and I'm all right now. They're quite incredible creatures, really.
Yeah, I had a cat previously to this. It was part of my divorce settlement, so to speak. I suppose she was. I got her, and a very good friend of mine who now lives in Kent. Again, we went to school together. He was getting married, so I went and spent 3 weeks with him, his family, getting everything ready. I did the catering part for it, and while I was doing that, the cat stayed with a friend at work. And when I couldn't wait to get back to her, and I got back to her, and she looked at me and said to say, "Who are you?" And then just walked off. Brilliant. Thanks for that, cat.
Isn't it nice to be loved?
My friends and I have always said cars, computers, or the opposite sex something at some stage during the day is going to cause you a problem.
Yeah.
And my opposite sex, unfortunately, is my cat. So therefore, she's going to cause me a problem today. So yes, it's normally my feet that's are the things that suffer the most. They're the things that get beaten up and bitten and
So you're on the immunotherapy now.
Yes.
My dad had some of that. He started off on the chemo, that didn't work. Then he went on to radiotherapy, and that didn't work. And then he went on to immunotherapy. And very much like you say, it's retraining your immune system to recognise the cancer and start fighting it itself, isn't it? Rather than relying on the drugs, which is just incredible. It's a fantastic way of thinking, and it stops them pouring all these sort of toxic chemicals into you.
But I was very fortunate that. So the Southampton unit, an old boss of mine, he was diagnosed and was given months. And because he was part of the Southampton unit treatment, he lasted 4.5 years. This is before immunotherapy came about. I always thought that chemotherapy was one drug that was injected into you, and that was that. But I think I was on 3 different types of chemotherapy, 3 different drugs. So I had 2 whilst I was having the treatment, and then I got fitted with a pump that lasted for 48 hours, and that basically carried on with another form of liquid that got put into my system, and then I'd go back and I'd have the pump taken out. And I didn't lose any hair, nothing like that. And I don't know, I've been very, very fortunate, I think, by being part of the Southampton unit that has allowed me to be where I am today. It's because they have their own research parts and everything like that. They make all their own chemicals on site. They do everything like that, and their unit is separate from the main hospital. It's a sort of like off to one side sort of thing. And they've been brilliant, and the nurses are absolutely phenomenal. They always ask me as I walk in there, "How's your cat?" They remember who you are, and it must be difficult for these nurses as well, because they see people day in, day out, and then one day they're not there anymore.
Yeah,
and that can't be an easy thing to do.
And they've got to carry on with their job, haven't they? They've got to keep going, and they've got to help other doctors and nurses out there. And we've always talked about how appreciative we are of what these people do, and for what can be seen as quite little money in the great scheme of things. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but if you think about how much a professional footballer earns, and then how much someone who saves your life earns, and it's sort of quite a sobering thought, really. I mean, obviously there's not a massive amount of professional footballers out there, but you know what I mean. It does make you think. You think, if you can make that sort of money from kicking a football, but at the same time you could be saving hundreds, thousands of lives. It's a strange world we live in sometimes. Oh, went a bit dark there, gents. Sorry about that. But it does make you think.
Not all superheroes wear capes.
Yeah, like that one. Oh, there you go. That's the name of the podcast. I've got that one. I'll write that down.
But you appreciate, I suppose, once you are dying, you do appreciate things a lot more, don't you? You look at things a lot differently, of like, right, okay, and do live for today. But since now everything that's going nicely, I don't just live for today. I do think about next week, about what I'm going to be doing, and stuff like that. A friend and I were discussing before the world went to pieces in 2020. We were going to meet up and do a mini school reunion, and sort of we lived in a place called Romsey, just between Winchester and Southampton. Yeah, absolutely. We lived there for a few years. Went to Romsey School, and thought, you know what, we need to meet up. We need to sort of just go back and do the stupid things that we used to do as kids. Then maybe I shouldn't sort of elaborate more on that, in fear of being arrested, but some of the things that we may or may not have done, some of the places we used to, there wasn't a lot to do in Romsey, so we just walk around and chat like we'd normally do. You didn't, Jesus. there was no mobile phones, there were no iPads. Yeah. And that's what we did. So we thought we'd do that, but then the world went mad and we couldn't do it. So hopefully this year we might be able to sort of like try and catch up, find some of our old school friends and do a meeting and stuff like that. But it's, again, looking forward to things as opposed to, oh, I can't do that now. No, I can do that now, and I want to do that now. So,
No, it's a great attitude. I mean, we've got Andy with us, and Andy's, I don't know, Andy's been punched in the face 3 times now, haven't you, Andy? I mean, you beat it, and then it comes back, and you beat it, and it comes back, and I mean, for Andy to have it 3 times, he's still. I know it's difficult for you, Andy, but you are generally quite an upbeat kind of guy, aren't you? Really, and you just get on with it.
Yeah, you got to get on with your life, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got your young kids and you've got your wife.
Yeah, I've got 2 kids and my wife. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's but it must be difficult, gents. I mean, I remember when I was going through it, and you just think sometimes oh God, is this going to get any better? Is when you're going through some really difficult times, and sometimes if you could be asked if you could just click your fingers and it would go away, and you would do, but I don't know quite what I'm trying to say here, but there are some really difficult times, but you have to keep going, don't you? You have to. I mean, I used to try and get through the day. I'd be like, right, if I can get to the end of today, okay, I feel like crap today, but if I can get to the end of the day, that's another day nearer to getting better, and then I'll do it again tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if that's the same for you, Andy and Steve. Whether
I mean, when I was in hospital last year, 65 days I spent in hospital through COVID.
Wow.
And I was only allowed on different occasions one person to come and see me a day.
Yeah.
For an hour. So yeah, wasn't very nice because I had like 8 or 9 head operations as well. So I wasn't in the right frame of mind, but just getting to see your family or my mum or my wife Callie just for an hour would just be, I'd be waiting by the door. Are they coming? Are they coming? With me drip and me arm in one and me thing in the other, and I'd waddle my way to the door and look through the door.
Have you got your gown on with it open at the back so we can see your arse like that?
Yeah. Well, no, because I put shorts on.
Oh,
I tried to put shorts on.
I appreciate that. I'll put that on in my mental image as well.
Yeah. Like when Kelly used to come and see me.
Yeah.
She'd give me a shower, sort me out, and I'd sit down. I'd probably only have 15 minutes with her.
Yeah.
When I've done all the things that I wanted to do, because obviously the nurses are the nurses, but I'd rather just Callie do it rather than a nurse stripping me down naked and bath and showering me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So that went okay, but yeah, it's just hard, especially with COVID.
Yeah, definitely. That was a bad time, mate. That was.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot lonelier, didn't it? Really.
One of my former employees, after discovering what's going on, messaged me and said, if the world didn't think you were strong enough, you wouldn't have it. Clearly the world thinks you are strong enough to be able to deal with it. So to be able to have it 3 times mean that you must be a pretty strong guy.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I just can't imagine somebody coming to me and saying it's come back again. I can't imagine that, but obviously you'd get on with it and you deal with it, and you would do. But just to be like you say, kicked in the teeth 3 times, and somebody's really testing you, Andy. They really are, aren't they? They're yeah. If you've beaten it twice, I'm pretty sure you can beat it a 3rd time.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, definitely. So
what doesn't kill us only makes us stronger.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, you're getting the cliches in tonight, aren't you, Steve? Oh, that's probably
absolutely.
I think that's 3 now.
Well, after darkness always comes light.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I made a playlist on YouTube of songs that meant something to me, and people that I've known over the years, and some of them you'll look at it and go, really? What the? Why? But for someone else, it will mean something to them.
Yeah.
And on my little bit I've put is, don't be sad it's over, be happy that it's happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, and that's the way you got to look at it, you know. So, yeah, I've said to my friends over there, like, well, what do you want me to put on there? One of my staff the other day said, is there any Venga Boys on there? No. So, you need to put Venga Boys on because what we dance around the kitchen when we're tidying up at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay, fair enough. We've got to put some Venga Boys on there then. So, we've got that on there, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it.
Yeah.
But it's more for them, I suppose, than for me.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it would be an interesting choice at a crematorium. You know, you sort of the Venga Boys blaring in the background, but you'd certainly you'd be remembered, though, wouldn't you? If that was playing.
Absolutely. So they call me the Dark Lord. I wear black in the kitchen as I'm the head chef, but also I'm a huge Star Wars fan as well. So I did find a dance remix of the Imperial March, and that's on there as well. So.
Oh, brilliant!
So you've got to do these things, and you got to, as you say, you're laughing, and that's basically what we've got to do. We've got to laugh at it because it's not going to beat us. It's definitely going to be, you know, and you know what? So you can sod off.
Yeah,
we're going to have a good time, and we're going to have a laugh.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant attitude, Steve. It really is a brilliant attitude.
It is, yeah. Fantastic, Steve.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's absolute credit to you. I mean, you if you don't mind me saying, you mentioned a bit about your dad.
Yes.
And it sounds like he's really struggled with that your diagnosis. That you must be quite close to your dad.
So my dad's currently married to someone that he's known for many years. She was previously married to one of my dad's good friends, and he died of cancer 10 years ago. And because of that, and they shared the grief together, and you know, they're married, and she's a fantastic woman, absolutely fantastic. She's probably the person that he should have been with right from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that he lived in London until sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and then moved to the south then, and it's been a lot nicer to have him around. And then my godfather, someone that my dad has known for 60 plus years, he unfortunately died a couple of years ago, again due to cancer. And my dad really struggled with that, and then for me to be diagnosed, it was him that was in tears when we came back from the hospital after discovering that I'd had a tumour. And it was, you know, that was hard to see. You're watching your parents in tears because of something that you've got. But he's been brilliant, and there were times when, well, he always wanted to be there when I was having my chemotherapy. He wasn't allowed to come in and sit with me, but he'd sit in the car outside, or there's a place called Maggie's, which is like Macmillan, but it's for the Southampton area, and he'd sit there. But he'd be there. I mean, sometimes I was in there 6 or 7 hours, and he'd be there the whole time. And I'd say, you don't have to be there, Dad. Drop me off and come back. But it was more for him, I think. Yeah. He wanted to be there, and if he wants to be there, then you know, that's absolutely fine, and that's what he did. And he has been a rock. And going to that track day, he absolutely loved it. The videos that I've got are from him. He videoed it, and again, it's a memory that we've got together now. And I have every intention of doing more track days. Yeah. And when I do, I will invite him along as well, and he can sit there and stand there and watch me drive this big blue bus, stupid speeds down the straight.
Yeah.
Have you thought about what tracks you'd like to go to? Have you ever thought about the Nürburgring?
You know, so I was talking earlier about my friends, the two Pauls, and the one thing I said is I'd like to do the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've got to make that. We're trying to make that happen. We're all discussing buying some form of cheap track day car. The brakes on my Mercedes are around £2,000 to replace the front brakes. So it would be cheaper to buy a car and use that as a track day car than it would be just to replace the front brakes. Or the tyres are over £800 to replace the tyres. So you're almost looking at £3,000 just for front brakes and tyres. I could buy something for £3,000. If I put it in the wall, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Not that I want to put it in the wall, but
No, put a bit of a damper on things, really. That would, I think. So track car. Then, what are we thinking? Are we thinking a modern build, something a bit older, or what's
I had
thinking?
an Audi TT many years ago. I'm not a hairdresser. I am a chef.
Oh, controversial.
And I also had an Audi S3. I've had far too many cars over the years. I had an Audi S3.
Yeah.
And the TT is essentially an S3, but significantly cheaper. You can pick up a TT for about £1,500. And if you find the right one that's had mods done to it already, then you sort of like quids in. I have found one online. It's got the wheel spacers, which they say they need to basically put the wheels further out.
Yep.
It has been lowered and firmed up. I'm sure it's been modified in some way for performance because it's a lot quicker than the one I had before. And it, I think it will do the things I want. I'm not going to strip it out and take out the air conditioning and stuff like that. I'm far too old for that kind of thing. I want to be cold when it's hot. So I'm going to keep all those things. I'm even going to look at probably putting cruise control in it because I like my gadgets.
You do, don't you? Yeah.
So so that's what I'm thinking. My friend's looking at Mazda 3 MPS, so it's got the 2.3 turbo. He's thinking about something along those lines. So, but then he used to be a police officer. And my God, does he know how to drive? I did. I had an old S-Class many years ago, an S500, and we went to Blackbush because we used to buy and sell cars together, and went to Blackbush, and he had my big floaty bus just sliding all across the car park. With tire pouring off the smoke pouring off the tyres. I thought, because I had I couldn't do it. And I was just nailing the throttle and turning it right, and nothing was happening. But he had this thing completely sideways. And right, okay. But so he's thinking about getting a Mazda 3, and then the other one, I'm not sure what he'd do. And then the three of us, I think, will just trundle over to Nürburg, and it's not that far. I say it's not that far. It's about 8 hours away, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I did it in my mid-20s. So I went with my mate, and we went to Belgium. We took a tent and we just had a night in Belgium, then drove to Holland and had a night there, and then drove down into Germany. But yeah, you could do a straight, or over a couple of days, take a nice steady drive, stop off somewhere halfway, and there's a hotel by the track as well, and it's got to be done. It really has got to be done. All I would say is remember that car's got to get you home as well.
Yeah, well, one thing I did when I was at Goodwood in the Mercedes was most of the time I just let everything go past me. There was no, do you know what, there's a car behind me, I'm just going to indicate, let it pass me, and that's it. I mean, okay, I probably was quicker in a straight line, but it's not about that, it's about the enjoyment. And they're there for a reason as well, they're there to have fun. So let's let them pass, let them have their fun. Bit along the back straight, I was going up to 140 in the Mercedes, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And doing it on the public roads, not that I would ever would.
No, not at all. And Andy, you don't do those sort of speeds either, do you, mate?
No, never been caught for speeding me, Aid.
No, he's a good lad, is Andy. Yeah, he sticks to the speed limit in his turbo Nova. But yeah. No.
I like the way he said I've never been caught. He never said I don't do that.
When I first passed my driving test, you'd spot police cars everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, wouldn't you?
And now it's and the quality of driving is atrocious. You think, oh my God,
Yeah.
But I try, honestly, really try so hard to stick to 70 miles an hour. So I have my treatment tomorrow. I'm going from Basingstoke to Southampton. I get on the M3 and I literally put the cruise control on and just glide up there.
Lovely.
It doesn't always work that way, unfortunately.
So, are you a football fan at all, Steve?
I should be really for Southampton, shouldn't I? But considering they're going to go down this season, probably, yeah. No. I'm more a person that likes to know what's going on as opposed to watching.
Yeah.
But I am a Southampton supporter for my sins.
Good man. We've got one, gents. There's another one out there.
John is as well.
Is he?
Yeah, we were talking about it when we were in the car. He's a Southampton Saints supporter as well.
Andy, are you listening to this?
Yeah, I'm listening to it, Abe.
Yeah.
And my friend who lives in Kent, the one I did at his wedding, yeah, he was a Southampton supporter as well. Yeah. His wife and son are both Arsenal supporters.
That was an interesting weekend.
Just who are 3-1 up?
I know.
And still, I mean, geez. Yeah. You've got no hope then, have you, really? If you're 3-1 up and you still throw it away, it's like, yeah, you're definitely going down.
Yeah, that's it. We deserve to go down. We deserve it. We've done our very best to go down, and we've succeeded. We've done really well. I'm proud of them.
We'll be playing you next season, Aid.
Yeah, you've survived now, haven't you? Stoke are safe, aren't they, I think? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, the Championship. Oh, God. No, that's bargain basement football now. Bloody hell.
I mean, there's still no guarantee that they are going down. Yes.
Oh, come on, Steve. I know you're an optimist, but come on.
Look at the bright side. I mean, you're right. I mean, I know there's 6 games left, isn't there? And it's like, it would take a miracle now, unfortunately, wouldn't it? So.
Yeah, the fat lady's got the microphone ready. She's ready to bang out a tune. She's we're gone. I think if we accept that, then it's I think we just have to accept it.
A bit Ness and Dormer, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much so, yeah.
Because it won't be when the Saints go marching in, because they won't be going marching in. They'll be marching out.
Go marching down. That's it.
Yeah.
Should we play our card game, gents, to finish this off? Should we do that? I don't know if you heard the last podcast, Steve.
I did, but I don't remember the card game.
The card game. Yeah. Well, it's not so much a card game. It's more we put pressure on you to pick a car.
Oh, yes, I do,
yeah. So the emphasis is on you now to make the right decision, pick mine. But, yeah, so we've got 3 very different cars, and we just have about 30 seconds just to tell you about the car, just for some people who haven't heard it before kind of thing. And then it's which car would you take home with you from our imaginary studio. We're sitting here, we've got the keys ready for you.
Okay.
So, Andy, do you want to go first this week? Tell them about your car.
Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah.
Go on then, matey. What you got?
I've got a 1.4 SR Vauxhall Nova Mark II.
Yeah.
It's all picked out, bucket seats, fuel all in, fuel lines all in. It's got C20 LET, which is what they put in the Clee before turbos. It's got one of those engines in which I took the engine out and forged it, and oversized pistons, new turbo, did all that on it, got it all up and running. Roll cage, job done. 279 brake horsepower.
Fantastic. In a car that weighs the same as a packet of cigarettes. And will probably fold up like one as well.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to do any dash speeds in it, but it's good for doing small speeds.
Okie dokie. So that was Andy's Nova. Darren, do you want to go next?
Yes, I will, yeah. I have a 1988 Rover SD1. It's a 2.6, which I've owned for many years. It hasn't got the cruise control on it, Steve, on this one, but it is absolutely brilliant for just getting on the big open roads, and if you like getting there and you just sitting at a nice speed. And it has got a bit of go in it as well for its age, and it's just had a nut and bolt restoration as well, been completely restored by Car SOS. So it's like driving a new car, really. Great all-rounder, you can go, it's brilliant, and it does actually fit in. You can almost get a double bed in it. A 3/4 fits fine if you put all your seats down, so it doubles up as a great camper if you're going away for the weekend there.
Yeah, if you don't want to stand up.
Yeah. No, parcel shelf makes a nice little table on the side. They put your phone on a little parcel shelf when you put your front and the back seats down. Yeah. Speakers, little lights in the back. They're almost like bedside cabinets. Brilliant.
Okay, let's bring some sanity back, shall we? Yeah. So I've got a Mondeo Mark II, about 30 odd thousand miles, really really tidy condition. I was converting it. I was what was I doing? I was restoring a Mark One, which had the 4-wheel drive running gear. I've restored that running gear, and I'm now putting on a Mark II because the Mark One just needed a hell of a lot of bodywork and stuff. So it's going to be drop 30 mil. It'll have the ST 200 alloys, so it'll the right wheels for the car, and it'll be 4-wheel drive, so it'll be very much one of a kind. I've transferred the interior as well, the SI interior, so a bit like the sort of sleeper theme that you're going with, Steve, but without the performance. It'll have all the running gear, and then maybe in the future I might upgrade the engine or something. But I needed a car that's got to be a family car as well, but something that's nice and a little bit different and a bit of a project. So mine will be a 4-wheel drive Mondeo Mark II.
See, now, I would have gone with the Mondeo.
Hang on, no, you've gone wrong there, Steve. You've said probably.
But my stepdad had a 3.5 litre V8 Rover SD1. He had a 3.5 SE Mark II. And the number plate was on it was BEK1, just initials, which spells Becky, which is what my previous cat was called. She was called Becky.
Oh, amazing.
So I've got to go for the SD1, haven't I, really? It would be wrong.
What a star you are, Steve.
Well, it would be wrong if I didn't.
Andy,
this is 3 on the trot.
Yeah, and because you had the XJ last week, wasn't it? So.
The XJS, yeah.
But you can also fit cruise control to pretty much anything, so it's not a problem.
No, I had it on one of the others. This is about the fourth SD1 that I've owned, and the last one was a Van Place, and that did have cruise control in it, but this one hasn't got it. Didn't have it on for some reason. I don't know whether there was an extra you could put on and you had to pay for when it was as a
it was
sort of production car. I'm not quite sure.
Stand on the Van EFI.
Yeah, the
optional on the 2.6 and the 3.5 carburetors, SD1s.
Yeah.
Along with
the EFI was the top of the range, wasn't it? Really, that had everything in it, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, one of my good friends, he had an SD1 Vitesse twin plenum, and that had air conditioning, which air option.
Yeah.
On the very early SD1, the Mark 1 SD1, the V8S, the ones that was metallic lime green with the gold wheels. I mean, what the 70s did, I don't know.
Oh, the colour scheming was bizarre, wasn't it? Really?
But that had air conditioning as standard. That was the only SD1 in this country that had it as standard. It was optional on everything else. Even when it went to the Phase 2s, the Mark 2s, it became optional on everything. It wasn't standard on anything. So my stepdad had a yellow SD1 V8, and then he traded that in and got a light metallic blue SD1 Phase 2. But when you adjusted the mirrors, the fuses for the headlights would blow. If you put down one of the windows, it was never going to go back up. It leaked. I mean, it was a proper SD1. It was built by people that had no idea. But yeah.
Should we leave you two to it, and we'll join you later? Yeah. You want to have your little Rover get together, and we'll.
To be fair, I'm pretty much like this with most cars. So you talk about your Mark II, your Mondeo. Of course, fantastic, isn't it? I mean, the Mark 1 was such
now, aren't you? Yeah.
was such a different car at the time. It replacing the Sierra, going from rear-wheel drive to front-wheel drive. Creating a lot more space, and I liked that. And then I've seen recently there was a Mark III Mondeo ST220 that had been converted to 4-wheel drive as well, because it's the same running gear as the Jaguar X-Type. So they just took the X-Type running gear and put it in this ST220 and made it
same
4-wheel drive.
Chassis, isn't it? I think same chassis. Yeah.
Same chassis. And then of course the Nova many years ago in the Max Power era, there was a Courtney Turbo that did a 4-wheel drive converted Nova, a dark metallic green one with black leather, if I remember correctly. It was running about 300 horsepower.
Yeah, it was only had one engine in. That was the first C20 lap Nova that was done.
Yeah.
I remember that when I passed my test, I had a 1.2 Mark II Nova, And I remember seeing that, and like £40,000 they spent on it.
Yeah.
I was like, one day I want one of them. I want one of them. And then it comes to the point where I was like, oh, there's one for sale there. I'll buy that one. But I've stripped it all down completely and changed it all. But yeah, it's C20 LET turbo.
Yeah, there's one of the YouTube channels is once bitten, forever smitten. He's in Scotland, and he's got a Nova that I think he's going to do bits and bobs to. He's just found a Cavalier Mark III Cavalier, but pre-facelift diplomats.
Yeah.
That's very rare. The pre-facelift diplomats, and I love these things because it does. I suppose it takes you back to an era of being younger with not so many cares in the world. And I mean, I had my first car was a Talbot Horizon.
Yeah.
And if I could find another one that I could have, I'd have it in a heartbeat. And just to be clear, my Horizon had cruise control. So it was awful. You set it for 30, you do 25, 35, 25, 35, but the average was 30. I've had Renault 25s. The Toyota Supra Turbo, which I should never have sold because it'd be worth a fortune now.
Yeah, I bet it would be.
BMW E32 750iL, I sold for about £2,000. It's probably worth about 20 now.
Oh God, we've all done that, haven't we? We've all done that. Where you've had that moment where you think, "Do I sell this car?" And then you sell it, and then I was watching Bangers and Cash a week or so ago. There was an Opel Mantron there, and it went for nearly 20 grand, or it went around 20 grand. I was like, "Oh my God, I sold mine for 3."
Yeah. Well, there was the RS 500 Cosworth recently, wasn't there? 600,000.
Yeah, we
can't believe that, wasn't it?
Certainly.
But there was the 2.4 Stroker Cosworth on eBay not so long ago. That's a very rare car because it had factory warranty and everything. It was done by a dealer, so it had factory warranty when it was new. It was worth 4x4, and it had been resprayed dark metallic green as well. Which is quite a rare British racing green. Yeah. So, if I had the money, would I get something? Of course I would. I mean, it'd be unreliable. It'd be on the side of the road most of the time, but I have the RAC, so it's okay. So stuff like that. I mean, my old S500 I had electric picnic tables in the back. So.
Electric picnic table.
Oh yeah, it was a business edition. So it was chauffeur driven. So you basically had the controls on the side for the seat in front of you, so you could pop the table out and then move the seat to how you exactly wanted the table in front of you, so you could do your work on the back of it. When I was married at that time, and my wife then still has two children, and the kids in the back would just argue which side of the car they'd be on because it was only on the passenger side, and so they could do the table.
Brilliant.
Before that, I had my E32 750, and that had picnic tables on both sides. When I came to sell it, I was giving it a good clean, moved the open picnic tables, and they're both covered in stickers. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Great.
I mean, your car, Steve. You really do. I must say, you're very knowledgeable on your cars. A lot more knowledgeable than I am.
I've been a chef for 34 years. Or in catering for 34 years, and I probably do know more about cars than I do about being a chef. And I'm not a bad chef.
Well, so. There you go. You must be doing something right. They're keeping you. You must be doing something right.
They say they're utilising my skills. They're sending me here, there, and everywhere, and I like that. And they pay me 45p a mile to go anywhere, so at least it puts some sort of covers the petrol.
Yeah. If you take it steady.
Yeah. The average is 16.3. So,
Okay. Yeah, I think you're doing quite well out of them. I think we need to come towards a close now. I don't know if you gents have got any questions you want to ask before we go. I've got one more thing, but
no, thanks very much for popping on. Really, really good.
Yeah,
it was very good. Yeah, really enjoyed it, Steve.
Thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Yes, it's nice to talk about vehicles and passions and other things. I mean,
it is. Yeah,
the three things that I am very good at, and that's being a chef, my cat, and my cars.
Yeah, because this is what we've been hoping for, really, isn't it? To get someone that's come on that's in a like kind of for like situation that where we've been and where we are, that just comes on and talks about all the other things and lets us know about their journey, and then how the cars are like involved in their life as well. So you're kind of the first one that's come on in all the weeks that we've done this, and that's what that was our main goal, was to try to hopefully get people to come on and think, oh yeah, I can join in, I can give them a ring, and I'll have a chat with them when they do it next time,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm chuffed to bits with it that you've come on, mate. It's been really good.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.
And I love your attitude towards life, Steve. And if I could just say, if you could give one bit of advice to people out there who are going through this awful thing, or have got somebody going through it. I mean, what's your sort of advice to someone if they came to you and said, look, I've got cancer, or my friend's got cancer? What would you say to them? How can we end this podcast?
Don't bottle it up. Speak to someone. It doesn't have to be about the cancer. It could be about the weather. But speak to someone. Communication is such an important thing to do.
Yeah.
And talk about anything that you love, like cars, cancer, or cats.
The triple C, I like it. There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure. You're an absolute credit. You're a lovely chap to speak to. I know we'd like to keep in touch with you.
Yes, definitely.
I've got your details. I'd like to keep in touch with you and see how you get on with things. And maybe in the future we can meet up and watch the Saints at Wembley or something. You never know.
Do you know what? That would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, yeah.
I don't know when that will be. Lifetime, but
Well, they've won the FA Cup once, and they've been in the final again. So anything's possible.
Yeah. All right, mate. Okay, that's enough positivity for one day.
Come on, Abe, be optimistic here, mate.
All right then. Yeah. Okay, we're going to survive. Yeah, whatever. No. So just need to bring it to a close. So thank you very much, gents. I hope you all have a lovely week. We will be back next week. And once again, thank you very much, Steve. And we'll speak to you all very soon.